And a very good Tuesday afternoon to you. Welcome in another edition. We're calling it the playoff edition of the Bold Bald Breakdown. That feels so good to say. And the Browns are getting set for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans.
You had it all set in your mind so much.
I did.
What happened last weekend just flew right out of it.
I thought it was totally going to be Jacksonville, which actually I wanted the most.
Yes, of course.
But we'll talk about it. Browns and Texans, Saturday at 4:30. Time for another edition of the Bold Ball Breakdown. I'm Mike Chico Borman. He is Nick Shook with NFL.com and the NFL Network. Shooky, postseason, baby. It's happened. It's happened.
It has happened. I've started to see the hype videos coming out on social media. Everybody here is riled up. They're jazzed up. They're ready to go. I had a buddy text me last night and say, it just feels different. Actually, he asked me, so you go to the Super Bowl, right? And I was like, yeah, I'll be there for 8 days. Do it every year. And he goes, so you get 8 days of Joe Flacco? I was like, all right, let's stop counting our chickens, counting our score before the ball's in the hole. But people here, they think anything is possible with this team.
Well, okay, let's start there because it's not – I don't think it's just here in Cleveland.
True.
And a lot of times, you know, we do have to take a step back. We know that covering Cleveland sports for so long that, you know, take a step back and what's reality. And, you know, a lot of folks in your industry, you're obviously with NFL Network, but a lot of the national media has said, you know what, it has been such a crazy year, and, you know, Joe Flacco is playing well. You've got still a very good defense. You got a great defensive coordinator. Why not the Browns?
Yeah, I think it's an interest. So I was looking at the matchup of Browns-Texans, and I thought, all right, Texans turn around, Browns getting here with Joe Flacco and all these injuries and everything else. This is probably a Saturday night primetime game. And then the Bills went and beat the Dolphins and shook up the rest of the playoff field and made for some more, you know, prominent matchups elsewhere. The Rams and Lions, you know, that sorting itself out the way it did, that made for a more prominent matchup. And suddenly the Browns are in the 4:30 spot on Saturday, which back in the day for us people at NFL.com, NFL Network, and the Around the NFL podcast, we used to know that as Westivus because our dear late friend Chris Westling was a Bengals fan. And every year the Bengals would just barely get into the playoffs as a wild card team, and they'd always go play in Houston, and they'd always lose. So we made it like an annual holiday where we call it Westivus, in which he had given up on the Bengals, but we would all gather to watch the Bengals lose in the wild card round, typically in Houston against the division champion Texans. So now it's the Browns. It kind of reminds me of that, except it's a completely different story of a team, but it's going to be really interesting because they are the first playoff game. And you know how people in this country love football. It is the number one sport by and large, and everybody's going to be geared up for the playoffs. And the first teams to play are the Browns and the Texans. I mean, that's a fantastic game, fantastic matchup, and we haven't even gotten into the stories behind it, really.
Yeah, and by the way, and this is where, again, I always say it, like Shook and I many times are on the same level and kind of the singing from the same hymnal as Mike Pettin and Ray Farmer used to say.
With or without the towel on the head.
That's right. So, yes, the Browns lost to the Cincinnati Bengals 31-14. If anyone out there is honestly expecting us to like break that game down or, you know, oh my gosh, you know, I had a guy tweet at me and say, well, yeah, I don't want to make too big a deal, but just see how they come out in the first half. If they forget it. I'm not even going to.
It's like a bye week.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I had a little bit of a creeping sense of like, oh no, what if they're rusty? But again, this is a team that has defied all the odds. Like, every reason to doubt them has already come and gone, and yet they've just shoved that doubt right back in your face, gone out and won football games, sometimes by wide margins. So get rid of that fear. But I do caution this.
Yeah.
Folks who think that the Browns have a big chance in the wide-open AFC playoffs, which they do, to make a deep run, stop thinking that way right now. And I say this because you don't get playoff berths very often in this town. We've seen it. This is only the third one since they've been back since '99. This is only the second one in the last, 4 years? And on the second one in the last 15 years. Enjoy this weekend. Stop thinking ahead to, all right, well, who are we going to get in the divisional round? Houston is no joke. I'm not saying prepare to lose, but enjoy this weekend for what it is. Have fun. The Browns are in a playoff game. Soak it all in, and if they win, it'll feel even better at the end.
Yeah, I wonder, and I don't want to go here, but now that you did go there, I'll just, and it's not, look, I think the Browns can and will win this game on Saturday. We'll see. But if they don't, I hope people still appreciate, like, them getting here and them doing everything that they did to get here amidst all the adversity and all of the injuries and everything else doesn't just go out the window. Now, I know, hey, it's you win and you go on, you lose, and it's, oh my gosh, the season's over. But I think to your point, it's a good one. Manage expectations. Yeah, I mean, have dreams that, hey, you can do anything. They can go as far as they want to go, but don't let that get in the way of enjoying this. Like, you know how many times, and this is no lie, a good friend of mine can attest to this. I have said to him numerous times throughout the 2000s and, just these lean years, do you know how much I would love to be able to, like, because I love Saturday playoff football.
Yeah.
Just forget, I don't care who's playing. It's just awesome. Wild card weekend. I would love for that to be the Cleveland Browns. Like, I can't imagine what this city would be like. Now, I was talking about mainly a home game, but either way, man, enjoy this. Like, the playoffs begin, the Browns kick it off, and I can't wait for Saturday.
Look,
I can't wait.
We live in a world now, unfortunately, in which Michigan is the national champion. It's going to be a tough year, guys, in the state of Ohio. It's going to be tough. So enjoy this now. Don't count the score before the ball's in the hole. Just sit back and enjoy 4 quarters of playoff action. The Browns are in the playoffs. They got a great shot. And ride the wave. Enjoy it. Ride the wave. Don't set any expectations, because don't be like me when I was a teenager and the LeBron Cavs 1.0 repeatedly failed to get to the finals or win a championship, and the pressure was mounting. Don't put that pressure on yourselves, because the Browns have already relieved themselves of that pressure with all the injuries that they unfortunately have accrued on this roster. Don't be the guy who can't watch SportsCenter for a month because your team lost in the playoffs. Just accept that they're in the playoffs and that anything can happen, and hope for the best.
Playoff edition of the Bold Bald Breakdown. The Browns, the Texans, Saturday at 4:30 from a leaky, by the way. What's going on with the roof at did you? I don't know if you saw that last night before. It's leaking now. Of course, Browns fans are saying, "Well, that's okay. Just move it back to Cleveland." I don't anticipate that happening. I think, look, they're going to be fired up as much as we're going to be fired up. It's going to be a raucous crowd. This is where, and we've been talking about this for weeks and weeks with Joe Flacco. I mentioned last week about, laughing about Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs. The dude is not going to be rattled, but that said, it is going to be a crazy, electric, raucous atmosphere and a hostile environment.
Yeah.
But I'm not that concerned about it.
Yeah, the Deshaun Watson element is eliminated. The Browns went there 2 times ago and had to play with Deshaun Watson. It was a weird feeling throughout the stadium that game when the Browns managed to win that game. And then they go in there this year without him. That's kind of been removed from their shoulders. You don't have to deal with that. But this is not probably going to go the same way. At least I don't expect this game to go the same way that it did when they went to Houston, just about a month or so ago, because Houston has their quarterback back, and it's the playoffs, and people in that town have had nothing to cheer for, much like Cleveland for most of the last 20 years, have had nothing to cheer for with this football team for years. Suddenly they got this upstart team that went and won the division in the final week of the season. They're riding all the momentum into the playoffs. They have every reason. I'm sure they're going to close the roof to make it even louder. By the way, leaky roof. The last time that roof was notable was at the Super Bowl when Lady Gaga faked a jump in there for her halftime show. They did a little pre-recorded thing where she's like, "Woo, I'm jumping over the roof," and then they had her come in on the wires. That's the last thing I can remember about that roof.
When she landed, was it too shallow?
Tuesday. Bad jokes.
Come on, Boom. You love that. No, he didn't. Nobody did. Nobody should have.
I'm proud of you for making the music reference.
Thank you. It's actually a pretty good tune, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so here's where I want to go with this. When we talk about the Browns, we talk about the Texans. We knew going in, heading into this week 18, okay, it's going to be, it's either the Jaguars, it's either the Texans, it's either the Colts. Everybody had their rankings. I actually had the Colts, believe it or not, and I had the Colts at the top of the list of the team I didn't want to face.
Oh, interesting.
Followed by the Texans,
Okay.
and then Jaguars I thought would be the – and the reason I said that is I thought Steichen, that last matchup, kind of had a good game plan. Like, we're going to rub routes. We're going to, hit him across the middle, try to get him out of man-to-man coverage. They did. As soon as they went to zone, it was, we're going to attack the middle of the field. Now, I'm not saying the Browns haven't improved since then, too, but I thought Shane Steichen's game plan, now C.J. Stroud has absolutely been on fire. I'm just curious, going into last week, what was the team that you said, okay, of all those three, the team I'd least like to face is who?
It was Houston.
Okay.
Sorry.
CJ?
Yeah, because of C.J. Stroud. I mean, all you need to do is run back the game that they played on Saturday night against the Colts and look at the first play from scrimmage for them. Guy drops back, clean pocket, steps up, delivers a dime for a 75-yard touchdown to Nico Collins, his favorite receiver on that team. By the way, get familiar with that name. He's going to go to him a lot this weekend. I promise you that. He has all season since the preseason. He's been their favorite guy, and a lot of people probably won their fantasy championships or at least got deep in their fantasy playoffs by adding Nico Collins and being ahead of the curve on that, because that's quite a pairing in Houston. But he is a guy who has played, I saw it probably in the first month and a half of the season where I was like, oh, everything I thought about him coming out of Ohio State, that he's the most pro-ready quarterback in this class, that if you surround him with the right amount of talent and a good offensive line, he's going to succeed. It's all coming true. It's all coming to fruition. He is seasoned, even though he hasn't been in the league very long. His best strength is accuracy, and he throws guys open.
And accuracy deep, too.
Yeah, and that carries over usually. That translates the quickest in the NFL. And honestly, I don't see a ceiling on him, provided that he's given enough protection in the offensive line. He's got a franchise left tackle in Laramie Tunsil, so that's kind of taken care of. He's going to be a problem for the Browns defense. It's going to be a challenge, and I worry about the way that they've played on the road for most of the year. And the last month or so has been a bit of an aberration because you faced, Case Keenum when you played them. Trevor Lawrence was a little banged up when you played them. The examples have not really been something that you can entirely rely on with this defense, and yet they do have 3 of the top 5 corners according to Next Gen Stats when it comes to completion percentage over expected, allowed, basically, where they're shutting guys down routinely more than anybody. So it's going to be a game in which you need your safeties to play well. Ronnie Hickman ended up in the PFF top, the 90 club 2 weeks ago for this game against the Jets.
Been good.
Yeah, they've all been pretty solid. They're all going to have to be very good. It's going to have to be a collective effort on the defensive side of the ball. Devin Singletary has hit a new career high in rushing yards. That's their lead back. It's going to be a challenge, but it all starts with C.J. Stroud. And if you can get after him and pressure him, you can force some mistakes. He does not throw interceptions, so don't bank on that. But he can turn the ball over if you get after him, and they have a defense that's capable of doing it. It's just a matter of road game. You got to do it early, and you got to get points on the board. Luckily, the offense, Joe Flacco, not afraid to throw the football. They've been able to take early leads in the last few weeks.
To stay on the defense for a moment, I think this is where – you can say, okay, well, and I think some of the stats bear it out. You would know better than anybody. But, when CJ has to face man coverage, and obviously the Browns, we know what Jim Schwartz is going to want to do. He's going to want to be physical. He's going to want to, play that man coverage. I think it bodes well, like you said, when you have and also healthier versions of Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson Jr., and Greg Newsome. But I think it helps when you have those 3 guys being able to man up, because then all of a sudden you're saying, can we get home with 4 Myles Garrett and I feel like this is going to be a challenge for CJ. And now that said, he seems to be a guy that thrives in these situations, which you don't say about a lot. You don't say about a lot of quarterbacks, period, let alone rookies. But he thrives in it. I go back to the Georgia game last year. He seemed to just thrive in that moment. But it feels like one of those where, wow, it could be some tough sledding for him and for that offense because of that great secondary.
Yeah, and one of the things that you do have to kind of find a little bit of comfort in is the fact that he doesn't have his best man-beating receiver on his team. Tank Dell's been out for a while now. Yeah. That's a guy who at the top of his route stem can go any direction and beat guys in man coverage. He's gone. So his top options now are Nico Collins, Noah Brown, and you get a veteran Robert Woods. That's basically the group. And John Mechie's out there, but he hasn't really done anything. Dalton Schultz, the tight end, could be a problem. I expect JOK to be on him, and also kind of being a bit of a spy for C.J. Stroud in the event that he runs, because he can run. They don't run him very much, understandably so. He's a pass-first, not run-first quarterback. You have the personnel to match up. It's just a matter of executing and not falling behind early, because we can bank on one thing offensively for the Browns, which is that Flacco's probably going to throw a pick at some point, because, you take the bad with the good. You do. So the Browns have to avoid digging themselves into a deep hole And I think the defense is capable of doing it. It's the number one defense in terms of yards allowed per game. It's the number one pass defense. There cannot be a tougher matchup, at least statistically, for C.J. Stroud in his first playoff game than this. But because you're on the road, the momentum will be in their favor. The energy is going to be very high. Can these Browns, who are a mix of young guys and veteran guys, some of them have been to the playoffs, some of them have not, can they be prepared? I will say this. I feel very good about the coaching matchup, not because DeMeco Ryans isn't a good coach, but this is the battle of the two leading candidates for Coach of the Year. One of them's got playoff experience. His name's Kevin Stefanski, so I think the Browns got that edge there.
By the way, with everything that transpired over the weekend and Jacksonville laying an egg and Houston subsequently winning the AFC South division, there are many folks out there that thought if that was the road for DeMeco Ryans, like a lot of people thought it would go to Kevin Stefanski, but if the Texans were able to win the AFC South, that maybe it goes to DeMeco Ryans. Is that? I mean,
yeah, I think it's a toss-up. I think it's an absolute toss-up. And unfortunately, I don't really think we're going to see the results of what happens this weekend affect it. So,
yeah.
I mean, that would be a great showdown. That would be a great determining final factor is, all right, well, who wins this game? Oh, the Browns won, goes to Kevin Stefanski. DeMeco Ryans and the Texans won, goes to him. We don't really have that at our disposal. So, but yeah, I would agree. Because, I mean, if you think about it, the Texans, they made the greatest year-to-year jump in wins of any team in the NFL this year. And they were a team that was quite literally referred to as a scum bucket of a franchise by a player who chose to sign with them just a couple of years ago because they were just taking anybody who wanted one more year in the NFL.
Yeah.
Come on, come play with us. Rex Burkhead, come play with us. Those types of guys. That's not who they are anymore.
Let me ask you this. I mean, we'll get back to the X's and O's, and we're going to flip it to, the Browns on offense versus the Texans defense in a moment. But who was, in your mind, going into the season, who was the biggest shot? Like, if I said the Texans will make the playoffs or the Rams make the playoffs, which? Oh, because I didn't think the Rams were going to do anything this year.
It's definitely the Rams. I actually just shared a post I'd put up in April from our roster reset series. We did a little thing on the since terminated NFL Now, RIP to the best midday NFL show on the planet. It was a roster reset series where I looked at, specific rosters and talked with some of our fellow analysts and writers about what has changed in the offseason for these teams prior to the draft. And I saw the Texans make all these moves where I was like, they're signing guys like Dalton Schultz. They're signing, Jimmy Ward, guys that are important players, that are impact players, not just the scum bucket level guys that they were getting the years prior, and thought, oh, they're starting to turn around. They re-signed Laramie Tunsil to a premier contract. All they really need now is the quarterback. They went and got the quarterback. And since then, they've been successful. Did I think they were going to win the division? No, but did the AFC South prove to be the AFC South? Yeah, kind of. The Jaguars falling on their face opened the door for the Texans to win that division. But the Rams, man, nobody expected anything from the Rams. When we went in the offseason, their COO, Kevin Demoff, wrote a letter to the fans kind of apologizing that, hey, sorry, but we're not going to do much this offseason because we're going to trade Jalen Ramsey for some draft capital because we can't spend money anymore. We went all in and won a Super Bowl, and then it all blew up in our faces the next year. That's the price we pay. So don't expect big moves, but stick with us. We'll be good in a few years. Turns out they were good in the immediate following year.
Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua. That's
even Tutu Atwell, a second-round pick that did nothing for them for the first couple of years of his career, suddenly becomes an impact player. All of this has to do, of course, with Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. Their partnership has never been better than it is right now, not even in the year they won the Super Bowl. But it is a stunner. Everybody had them finishing last or second to last, only ahead of the Cardinals in the NFC West. They end up making the playoffs, and some people are picking them to go beat the Lions this weekend.
I was just going to say, I'd also, in addition to being the biggest surprise, because I'm with you on that, they might be the most dangerous, the Rams. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think when you go through that whole, who's a team that nobody wants to face, I think the Browns are in that discussion for good reason. But I think the Rams right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with Sean McVay, the confidence they're playing with. Obviously, Puka Nacua, 1,500 yards, rookie record. They seem to have that it factor. And like I said, when you get into the postseason, you mentioned experience, and at the coaching level, man, that's a huge advantage. And I think right now Sean McVay is at the top of his game.
Yep.
They are not going to be an easy out.
This is his best coaching job of his career by far. They have the least amount of talent. If you look at their defense, kind of a lot of no-name guys outside of Aaron Donald. And yet they've played pretty solidly up there. Kobe Turner, the defensive tackle, another draft pick of this past year, has been a big producer for them. It's been a group that has overachieved, and at this point they've overachieved for so long and so consistently. Browns fans, you remember what happened to you when you went to SoFi Stadium, that pretty much anything is possible for them, just like it is for the Browns. I think if I had to pick 3 or 4 teams in the NFL right now in the playoffs that nobody wants to play, it's the Rams, it's the Bills, it's the Packers, and it's a toss-up between the Browns and Texans, although I'd lean Browns.
Okay. He's Nick Shook, NFL.com, NFL Network. Follow him on Twitter at @TheNickShook. I'm Mike Chico Borman. It is the playoff edition of the Bold Bald Breakdown. Browns and Texans coming up this Saturday. They will kick everything off for the weekend. 4:30 kickoff from Houston. Okay. Joe Flacco in that meeting against the Texans earlier this season, 368, 3 touchdowns. Browns win 36-22. Again, C.J. Stroud didn't play, but he also wasn't on the defensive side of the ball. Flacco, I mean, they didn't mess around. He diced them up. When we look at this matchup with Flacco and that offense against this Houston defense, what do you see, and what did you see from that last meeting?
Well, from the last meeting, I found a defense that was susceptible to give up the big play.
Yep.
That has not changed, really. They have a young secondary with some guys that I really like, Derek Stingley being one of them, Jalen Petrie another one, but they're young, and the Browns did a really good job of scheming guys open and hitting the big play against them early in that game to build a lead. Statistically, that bears itself out. The Texans' defense has been very inconsistent. They have some games where they almost dominate an opponent and shut them down, and that gives them opportunities on a tough day for their offense to get back into the game. And then they have other days where C.J. Stroud has to throw for 5 touchdowns just to get them a win, a narrow win over the Buccaneers. That's what, I mean, they got diced by Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. And the only reason they won that game is because Stroud outplayed Baker Mayfield, even though Baker had a great day. So I don't know what to expect from this defense from week to week. I think they have a front four that can be surprisingly good, but also as a unit is susceptible to give up the big plays, big yardage totals, and that can be a problem for them. I mean, statistically, they're 23rd against the pass. They're 14th overall, which is, better than the midline, the median point in the NFL, but not by much. They're better against the run than the pass, which fits the Browns matchup really well for the Browns because, look, we can say what we want and praise Jerome Ford all day, but the Browns have a committee backfield.
Yep.
It is not the weapon that it would be with Nick Chubb. They are a passing team. They have to throw the football a lot. This is why Joe Flacco throws for 35, 40 times a game, because they know that they have to throw the ball. And you're playing a defense that's in the bottom third against the pass. So that bodes well for the Browns. And I think that could be the key to this game.
Yeah, and I think along those same lines, Flacco has to be your most important player. I get it. Amari Cooper, and this is to go back to the rest and the mini bye, and you go back to that Thursday game, and if it would have been a Sunday game, he may have made it. Amari Cooper with the heel injury, but he's rested up. They're saying he's moving very well.
It's crazy what 2 weeks of rest can do. I messed up my back and had a spasm from my lower back all the way through my hips like 9 days ago.
Right.
I don't feel great right now, but I feel like I could go
I've
play
warned
a game.
you about trying to squat 800 pounds, but you just don't seem to want to listen.
It was legitimately 135 pounds. It was a warm-up set, okay? But that's what rest can do. A week later, you can feel almost good as new. Amari Cooper, elite-level athlete, me, average guy. I think he's going to be all right.
And I think he could have. I mean, I'm not looking. We're not thinking he's going to rewrite the record book that he already set. But I mean, this guy, I think he could have a monster day. And does this game end up in a shootout or who knows? But I think when we look at that offense and we look at, I just feel this has Amari Cooper written all over it. And are they going to be able to slow down Amari Cooper?
This reminds me of basically how you were looking at any matchup against an AFC South team because, like, the Browns beat the Colts. They swept the AFC South, right?
Yep.
So you're thinking, well, any team that they play from that division, they have a shot against, and it should be just like it was. Football, it's really hard to replicate the same performance twice. And if there's one thing that DeMeco Ryans' staff is going to be focused on, it's going back to that tape and going, how did Amari Cooper torch us for 265 yards? Like, let's stop this guy. So I actually think it's going to be the other guys. I think it's going to be more David Njoku than it's going to be Amari Cooper. Not that Amari's not going to factor in because he's obviously going to. But I think that that's going to be their number one
Marquise
focus.
Goodwin, maybe?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit of Cedric Tillman if he's healthy.
Yeah.
If not, it's David Bell, which suddenly you look down the Browns' receiving depth chart and you're like, oh, man, you lose Elijah Moore and you lose Cedric Tillman, and, oh, God, it's getting kind of ugly really quickly. So you have to hope, guys like Goodwin make a difference. But I think that their main focus is going to be take away Amari Cooper as best you can. The thing is I don't know if they're capable of doing that. So that's why it's a big toss-up for me. But if I'm their defense, that's number one priority.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think there's any doubt that he's the key, but I also think, like, we can say it all day long, and you can try to talk it into existence, like, hey, there's no doubt in my mind everybody's got him circled in those meetings, like Amari Cooper, but he's also Amari Cooper for a reason, and I feel like that could be – and then, you go back to the play action, and you get excited. You also, I think there's also a level of, is Flacco due for because I've heard this a lot lately. Is Flacco due for a bad game? Could it? Because this has almost been too storybook. But I also think that, you know what? He's playing the way he's capable of playing. It's not like Joe Flacco is playing out of his mind, or he's trying to do something that he can't do, and he, like I said, I mean, he's a Super Bowl MVP for a reason. I know he's older, but I don't get that sense that, oh man, that bad game. He's going to throw a pick, maybe even two, but I don't get that sense that a bad game's coming from him.
No, I think that at first that's fatalist, but that's also classic Browns fan.
Yeah,
to be like,
yeah.
Here it comes, the clunker of a game's coming in the playoffs.
Shoe's going to drop.
Yep, I told you it was too good to be true. Oh, I see. Only in Cleveland.
Oh, I see.
It's. I think it's fatalist to think that way, and I also think that you're forgetting the important context that surrounds Joe Flacco's last few years in the NFL, which is he goes to Denver and gets hurt, and then he plays behind a leaky offensive line that's still got problems years later in New York. The Browns don't have that issue. Despite all the injuries they've suffered on the offensive line, they don't have that issue on the offensive line. They're able to protect him, and Kevin Stefanski has done a great job of scheming to Flacco's strengths. I mean, they are a seamless operation. He fits Kevin Stefanski's style perfectly, so I'm not worried about that. He might throw one or two picks, but he's completely unfazed by that. He's unflappable. He'll go throw a pick and throw a 75-yard touchdown. I think he did it against Houston, so that's not a worry for me. I'm not worried about Joe Flacco because you're playing with house money, as we've said for weeks now, with Joe Flacco at quarterback. I'm more worried about the rest of the operation. Namely, can the defense get enough early stops to allow you to build the lead? Because the Browns are going to put points on the board. The biggest concern I have is the kicking situation, because in a playoff game, if it's close,
I think I said that.
we don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know exactly what the situation is at kicker right now, and whether it's Riley Patterson or whether it's Dustin Hopkins. I'm very confident in one and not so much in the other. So don't let it get down to that, Browns. Take care of business on the defensive side of the ball.
You just had to bring that up,
and put it up,
because that's really
no stone unturned.
Yeah, I know. That's what we're supposed to do, right? But
analysis.
I hate that. I hate the idea that Dustin Hopkins. I mean, Nick, it's the postseason, and maybe if you survive this week and you win this week, and we think they can, and I think they will. Okay, but this guy has been as important as – I know he's a kicker.
He's won you multiple games.
Yeah, I know he's a kicker. Good job, you freaking kicker. I get it. But this guy is as important as any player this season has been. I mean, it's just a fact.
Yeah, and you're rightfully concerned if it's Riley Patterson or if it's somebody else a kicker.
What about some of the guys we think they could be I mean, there's rumors about Obo Okoronkwo coming back.
Yeah.
There's rumors about Grant Delpit. It seems like he's probably a week away, but these could be some real big reinforcements. And again, guys that had a chance to rest as well.
Yeah, Delpit getting back would be huge because he's having a career year and he's since been paid like it. The timing of his injury was unfortunate and contributed to more, this is the end for the Browns type of talk when that happened. So getting him back would be massive and would make that defense even better. That's where the Browns are going to win this game. Offensively, they're going to put points on the board. And if they put enough points on the board that you're not going to have to worry about your kicker if the defense does its job. So, again, I don't like to look ahead, But I do like the Browns' potential to get some guys back late in the season. It kind of reminds you of the whole Cam Akers coming back from the torn Achilles where he goes and plays in the playoffs for the Rams, and they go win the Super Bowl. Did he make a huge impact? No. Their running game was pretty bad during that run. But the fact that he was able to come back, it gave the storyline some juice. And I think the Browns could get something similar. They got to go win this game, though. I mean, we can't really think about that too much. If you get Obo to play, Okoronkwo to play this weekend, then it's like, hey, score a point for second opinions, baby, because everybody said he was done for the year. But that's all just kind of a plus right now.
I think as far as the lead up for this game and a lot of it C.J. Stroud and focused on C.J. Stroud. Is there Devin Singletary? And I know you had him in the numbers that matter, which we're going to get to in a moment. Is he somebody sneaky could end up being a big factor in this game? Because the focus is all about, CJ and that pass offense. But Devin Singletary has had some games this year where he can present a problem. Do you think that he could be a problem coming up on Saturday afternoon?
Yes. He has had his best season with the Texans this year. This is a guy who was a cast-off from the Bills, a Bills team that couldn't traditionally run the football well until about 6 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, with James Cook, who's now a feature part of their offense. Should have been the whole time. They had other players that could do it too. Zach Moss was pretty good. Devin Singletary was pretty good, and they didn't use him right, and they were gone.
What a concept.
Yeah, he's had a solid year. He runs hard. He's not a guy that goes down on first contact, and the Browns' run defense is their weakness on the defensive side of the ball. So I do worry about that. I worry about how the run could set up the pass for the Texans in this game and make it into a bit of a back-and-forth affair where it's a four-quarter white-knuckle ride. It's like riding the old mean streak at Cedar Point, Just it's wood and metal, but it's like.
I think that might be the second or third Cedar Point reference you've had this
second
year.
One, definitely. I thought about it before I delivered it. I was like, you already talked about the Millennium Force. Just don't talk about the Dragster or the Dragster 2.0.
I love the fact that you've made Cedar Point references.
I love roller coasters. Haven't been on them in years. Yeah. Not good for your neck, but man, are they fun. I think that's how this ride could be if Devin Singletary gets going. So the Browns got to shut him down. They have not been great against runners who run hard, honestly. So it's going to have to be a focus for them because he can do it on the ground and out of the backfield. He basically had a walk-off touchdown there, overtime win over the Titans that got called back by a holding penalty. That's what he's capable of doing. It was a holding penalty on a receiver on the opposite side of the field, too. It didn't even matter. So, yeah, that's going to be a huge part. But I also have some breaking news here from Ian Rappaport. The Titans are moving on from Mike Vrabel.
Wow. You know what I think's going to happen?
I want Ohio State to go hire him.
No, I think what's going to happen, I think the Patriots.
I
think Belichick's out.
Match made in heaven.
I think that,
yep.
Yeah, I think Vrabel's.
Although, one could say, if you're going to get rid of Bill Belichick, don't you want a different approach? And Mike Vrabel would bring a similar approach.
Yeah, but I think Vrabel, yeah.
Franchise hero, successful coach, stuck with a bad
roster.
roster.
Like Vrabel would be more. I mean, he had a falling out too. Remember the whole A.J. Brown trade? Like the dude walked out of the draft room, was basically like, I don't even want to hear this.
That GM got fired.
Yes,
deservedly so.
I thought that, but you know what? Again, all of that stuff has been building. The A.J. Brown, it's been building with Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans. I'll be honest with you, though. I didn't think it would get to that point. I'm
going to be honest. I'm happy for Mike Vrabel because I think Tennessee is a sinking ship. The GM that they hired, Ron Carthon, is not who he worked with for a long time. Not to say that Carthon's not a good GM, but this is it's a different regime, and I felt like he had his hands tied. They were asking him to go win games with a hand tied behind his back. So instead of being the guy who's like, I'm out, they're going to part ways, and he's going to be able to go find a better. The problem is that if you go put him in New England, it's the same situation as it was in Tennessee. No quarterback, roster that lacks talent, has some talent on the defensive side of the ball, but lacks weapons in the offense. I mean, that's Tennessee again.
What would be different, though, with him and because I think Vrabel, I mean, he is headstrong. There's no doubt about that. It's one reason we all love him, and especially from this area and everything. But would he be more open to, as far as the front office? I don't know. I mean, I feel
does he want full control? I don't know. I mean, because the main thing that we hear about why he might not go back to college is that nobody wants to do the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
Running the front office is kind of like that, except it's player acquisition instead of recruiting. Although in the NIL era, you got to acquire guys with money too. Shout out to Cam Ward. Tried to go get the bag. Now he's going to the NFL. We'll see how that pans out for him. But yeah, it's a tough call. But man, that's a good coach. That's a damn good coach. And if you put him with a team with good talent, he's going to win you football games. So congrats, Mike. You're out of Tennessee.
I'm pondering? Because Ohio State fans, their little brains are just short-circuiting today.
Mine is right now. My
little
pea brain is blowing up.
Even before, I remember we had Schlegs on, Anthony Schlegel, and he's like, look, Mike Vrabel isn't going to Ohio State.
No, he's not.
And now, granted, I think if he goes anywhere, it's going to be the NFL, so it's not going to be Ohio State. But Ohio State fans now are going to be hell-bent on the fact that Mike Vrabel, you're going to see this all day long.
And the day after Michigan wins the
wants
Natty.
to restore. He does. I think he roots for. Of course, he wants Ohio State to do well. He doesn't want to be there.
Look, I
No.
hate internet nonsense more than anybody, to the point where I barely even tweet anymore because I just can't get into that swimming pool after so many years. The pool is toxic. Why would you, subject yourself to that?
People
right?
have peed in that thing.
And they're dropping
Boom.
number 2s in there. I mean, it's floating around the tub. No one's concerned with cleaning it up. They just want to make it work. It's a candy bar.
Spalding!
I want a hot
How many
dog.
times have I warned you about your language? Sorry, Grandpa, I forgot.
You'll get nothing and like it. And I think Ohio State's going to get nothing and like it, but I just think it's really interesting. I drum it up. Let Ohio State fans lose their mind over it because what happens, I mean, not to completely divert from Browns-Texans, but like the coaching market itself is going to be crazy.
Okay,
Harbaugh could leave Michigan for the NFL, Ohio State fans want Vrabel to come beat Michigan. Like, where are we going to be in the final week of the regular season next year when Ohio State's playing Michigan and Columbus, and Ryan Day is the coach, and Harbaugh is not the coach, and Ohio State still loses?
Okay, so look, this is something that I was planning on talking about later, and we will, because I do want to put a wrap and kind of everything together on the Texans and the Browns. But I did want to get into coaching moves and all of that good stuff, and we're going to get back to this. Again, Mike Vrabel, as Shook just pointed out, according to Ian Rappaport, Mike Vrabel and the Titans have decided to part ways. Wow. And there's some other, things going around throughout the league as far as coaching moves and whatnot.
He's not going to be unemployed for long.
No. And like I said, I wonder now if maybe Robert Kraft doesn't try to, but is that, you're right. Could Kraft look at that as, I love Mike Vrabel. Of course, everybody loves him in New England, but
no,
would it be?
No. I'm going to stop you there because I think that nostalgia will overpower him in this decision-making process. This is a fragile time for the Patriots.
Yeah.
They are very seriously considering moving on from Bill Belichick. It almost seems all but done.
I think it is.
It hasn't been done, but it felt very done. That's not a reality that they thought they were going to have to confront, just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best way to solve it? Go to somebody you know and trust and love, and that's member of the Patriots Hall of Fame himself, Mike Vrabel. But I think it's going to get interesting because he's a top candidate who has demonstrated success and a coaching market that lacks big-name candidates, and you get the college market that people are down in Columbus are going to be talking about it too. So it's going to be real entertaining. And he could be the Jenga piece that starts the whole tower to fall because you pull him out of Tennessee.
Cedar Point references.
The game of life. I'm going to end up in the rich retired millionaires estates or whatever it is. I never ended up there.
Let me, you know what? Now that we're here, I've just because I don't want to lose this train of thought. And again, Browns Texans. We'll get back to predictions. We'll get back to a few numbers that matter. We've already broken down a lot of this game. We'll wrap it up in a moment. But do you think teams around the league? I've always wondered this. Do you think some teams around the league, like let's say Chicago, for right now, Matt Eberflus is their coach.
Probably going to be back.
Right. Do you think, though, when news like this breaks, do they say, do you think there are meetings amongst themselves where they go, hey, we want Eberflus, he's back, but then behind closed doors, they have to be
This is why I love this.
Exactly.
This is the Jenga piece that makes the tower fall.
Vrabel's available. Oh, Harbaugh's, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's
Randy Lerner was in a press conference with the Browns when he found out that the Jets had fired Eric Mangini, and he goes, "What? They fired Eric Mangini? not long after Eric
The
Mangini was the
Manginis.
Browns coach. Like, sometimes this is how it happens. So pull the Vrabel piece out of the tower. The next thing to go is Belichick's out in New England. They make a push for him. Then other teams are considering, maybe we replace the guy we were going to roll with, like a Matt Eberflus in Chicago for Mike Vrabel. This is not a candidate that just falls into your lap.
And by the way, before anyone starts, let me just end
Not
this.
here.
Not here, okay?
No.
We're not even I'm looking around the league, and I would love to know, and of course the teams aren't going to talk about it, but I mean, I saw your reaction, so you're thinking the same thing.
No, it's
like
just
this
bad
is what
memories.
makes it fun. You're right.
Yeah.
Like they're saying, yeah, hey, we're all for our guy, but are you kidding? Whoa, Vrabel's
Whoa.
Harbaugh's.
This just reminds me of sitting in Cleveland Browns Stadium when I was a teenager and watching another bad Browns team lose a game and listening to my dad, among other people, say, they got a great team down the road in Columbus. Maybe they should go get Jim Tressel. And in my head, even at that age, thinking, Jim Tressel wouldn't be a good NFL coach. What are you talking about here?
Yeah.
That's how that's how a lot of fans operate. But, set that aside, guys. Enjoy. You're in the playoffs. You don't need to make a coaching change.
We had a few numbers that matter for the Texans heading into this game. And by the way, we know the Browns lost to the Bengals. If you're just tuning in, no numbers that matter.
Doesn't matter.
No takeaways at all. But you had a few from the Texans that I liked. Let's start with we'll start with the Browns first of all.
They gave you a lot.
We're not going to go through every one of them, but there were some good ones. One, regarding that Browns defense.
The Browns finished the regular season with the number 1, the top rank. Listen, come closer to the screen. Turn your speakers up. The Browns finished the 2023 regular season with the top ranked defense in the NFL in terms of total yards allowed per game. They're first versus the pass, 11th versus the run. They are playing a Houston team that is 14th, 23rd against the pass, and 6th against the run this weekend.
Now, talked about interceptions. Talked about takeaways, and Joe Flacco is going to throw a few.
And this is the number that the margin, the difference, the turnover margin, has been something that a lot of analysts have pointed to that
-8
could jump up and bite the Browns in the playoffs.
Texas interception rate is
They rank 2nd in interception rate in the NFL this year. The Browns, meanwhile, 31st. Joe Flacco throws picks, so I would bank on it. But yeah, so that's one of many statistical matchups that make you raise an eyebrow.
this number that matters is shout out to Roger Goodell, who I know is listening. And by the way, that was way to drop the hammer on David Tepper. That's why people always know, Raj, that when you say we hold these guys to a higher standard, damn it, we mean it. That's $300K. See if you do that again. $20 billionaire or whatever the hell you are. Anyway, this one's great. Parity. It's all about parity in the NFL. 6. I'm going to go with this one. 6 new playoff teams in 2023. Shook, courtesy of you, this is the 34th straight season in which at least 4 teams made the postseason after missing the year before. 34 straight seasons in which at least 4 teams made the postseason after missing the year before. And what this does is, it not only, I always say this, and this will make you feel good, Browns fans. It not only emphasizes the parity in the NFL, it tells you just how bad the Browns were for so damn long that for 2 decades they still couldn't. It was like, we're going to put this on a platter and show you like how this is done, but if you don't draft and you don't do but we're not there anymore. That's the good news.
Lack of continuity, changing your coaches frequently, GMs resetting all the time doesn't help. You guys don't know how much of a throwback Chico is?
Throwback.
I wrote that number that mattered in the Google Doc and then just watched him read it off of his notepad. That's how much of a throwback. The last time the Browns were consistently good, Google Docs didn't exist in Chico's world.
That was a great get. Let me just say, okay,
I don't know
I
if they
go
still
off
exist.
of this, and I do read occasionally. That was an awesome takeaway from Shook. But ultimately, I don't feel like I'm prepared. Like, Unless
It's got the reporter's notebook too. Oh, I got the same thing at home.
Look at this. Like, do I really? But this is how I don't feel as confident.
Yeah. I got one on my desk at home.
Yeah.
I got like 9 of them
That's
that are filled
such a
out.
great. You're right. I read that right out of the notebook,
Now he lost
even
his
though it
page.
is right here on the Google Docs.
Well, if you can't find your page, don't worry. It's also in front of you on the illuminated screen.
All right.
It's just a finger lick away.
Let's get to predictions because I want to go through all the games too this weekend as far as the playoffs go. Let's shift ahead to predictions. Browns and the Houston Texans again coming up this weekend. As I continue to see what you did, Shooky. Damn it.
Hey, I didn't tell you to flip it over and close it.
Yeah, I know.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
All right. We're back on track.
Browns on the road against the Houston Texans. I'm not even going to worry about the spread here. Just, straight up.
What is it?
Yeah, I think it's like 4.
Oh, damn it.
Last I saw it was 2.5.
Oh, 2.5.
Browns favored it.
But I didn't write that in my notebook, so it doesn't count.
It's not in the notebook. It doesn't count. All right. We're going to go Browns-Texans prediction here. Despite the 2.5, I'm going to go with a 4-point margin. I got the Browns beating the Texans on the road for the second time this year, 27-23.
Okay, so a tight game. I like the 4-point margin as opposed to 3 because then we don't have to worry about the
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that. Yeah,
exactly.
Right there.
Same wavelength.
Right there.
Bald guys we're all on the same
right.
frequency.
That's right. Not many follicles, but plenty of brain cells.
Yes.
As far as you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go Browns. I think the Browns put up some points in this game, like you. I'm going to go Browns 33. There's a field goal or 2 in there. And the Houston Texans 24. I'm going to go 33-24. I think the Browns eventually are able to start confusing C.J. Stroud a little bit. I think maybe he tries to force a few things later in that game because, there's frustration. It's your first playoff game, and, you're trying to make a play. The Browns are scoring points. You need to score points, and he might try to fit into a window that isn't there, that's covered by Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome or Martin Emerson Jr. or whoever else. And I think then the Browns are able to kind of pull away.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah, please do.
This has not occurred to me until now, and maybe it's just because of the world that I live in my own head. But
yes, I am a throwback.
Are you nervous? Do you have nerves going into this game?
Very good question. I don't. And I don't want this. When I say I don't have nerves, it's not that I'm cocky. I've never been cocky in my life. I don't have that, the doom scenario. You know what I mean? Like,
what happens if they lose? They lose. Great year.
Yeah, I'll be bummed because I want another week where we're looking forward to, this is what all fan bases seemingly get.
I want another week with you.
Absolutely.
That's all that matters.
Let's just who knows? We might get Cedar Point reference number 3.
Yeah.
I have another chance to use another 2, 3, 500 pages in my handy dandy notebook.
The Wicked Twister might be gone, but it's still here in our hearts.
That's exactly right. Well, okay, so now you answer the question. Are you nervous?
No, because I'm nervous for Browns fans who. Okay, this reminds me of the Cavs playoffs. Actually, I remember being in a bar right before the playoffs started last year and hearing, the Knicks, they'll wipe the floor with them, and I was like, have you guys watched the Knicks? They're pretty good. It's not a good matchup for the Cavs. I wouldn't be so certain, and then they went and got bullied off the floor.
Yeah,
I worry that some Browns fans are looking ahead to next week prematurely and not allowing themselves to enjoy this weekend. But I'm not going to concern myself with the opinions of others when all I have is control over my own peace. And my own peace means I will be joining the Clevelanders to watch this game this weekend because I'm not working on Saturday, which will be a real treat.
See, that's just it. I know. Bohm, are you all right? You're a Clevelander,
Just
Bohm.
enjoy it.
Bohm, are you nervous? And be honest. If you're nervous, that's fine too. we're not gonna crack on you if you. Well, maybe we will, but are you nervous for Saturday afternoon's game?
I won't lie, guys. I'm a little anxious over the thought of C.J. Stroud just carving up that Brown
that's the
secondary.
Buckeye
I
in him.
forgot about this.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and by the way, I had people on Twitter sending notes to me, tweeting at me. Yeah, that's.
Did they mail them to you in a notebook?
Yes.
Yeah?
It was actually a telegram. Yeah.
Carrier pigeon,
But
smoke signal.
but Morse code. Boom. Because you actually said, like, I feel like this was your quote, not mine. I feel like I might have to go Brady Quinn's sister with this game. And I was like, boom. Like, I mean, look, I understand I love CJ Stroud. The story, all of it. But boom, there cannot be a scenario where even, like, if CJ Stroud throws a 75-yard bomb to Nico Collins, there will be no part of me that is like, yeah, oh, yeah. No. It'll just be bleepity bleep. I feel like from what you said yesterday, are going to be like, oh, that really sucks. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Bohm, explain yourself, Bohm.
Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to feel. All I'll say is that the thing that I feel so much pride in with CJ Stroud is the fact that he's shattering the stigma of NFL quarterbacks from Ohio State, and that they can't.
Whoa, Justin Fields has something to say about that.
I wish I could completely agree with you, but I'm not there.
Okay.
I mean,
And that says a lot because Bohm usually gives every Ohio State player the benefit of the doubt.
I still think
every
Justin
single
deserves a
player.
shot. I will say that.
Oh, the Bears are going to be foolish if they move on from him.
By the way,
I
what
promise you that.
What was your prediction score again?
27-23. He's writing it down in the notebook.
Yeah. See, I could put it in here or here, but it's not official.
No, it's not in
Until
your
it's in
brain.
there.
It's like note taking in college. I always took handwritten notes because if I typed them out, nothing stuck.
See, and that's okay. So back in my previous working days,
Back when they first invented electricity. I'm just kidding.
Yes.
That
But
was
I
a
would
long
have, and this would at the fan. I can say it. It's okay. It's not a taboo word or anything. People would constantly say, like, dude, what are you writing in there? Why do you write? Because it helps me, like, prepare.
Yeah.
You know, Fox would be like, "What, dude? What are you doing?" Like,
I'm not just going off the dome here. I'm writing notes. I have points that I want to come back to. I'm putting a pin in it, as the youths like to say.
Yeah.
We're going to circle back at the start of the new year. The new year is here.
All right, so we both have the Browns winning. We won't ask Bohm because he might break down crying if he has to mention something about CJ, and that's okay. All right, so rest of the games. The other game on Saturday, Browns kick it off, as we said, against the Texans Saturday at 4:30. The night game, the late game, is the Dolphins at the Chiefs. And by the way, heads up, if you don't have a connection or service to Peacock, you're going to be SOL. So find that.
Which is wild.
That's very, very
Unless
wild.
you're in the local
Playoff
markets.
game, for God's sake. Dolphins at Chiefs. I'll let you go first.
I was surprised, actually. I went to Hooples down in along the river in the flats there, and they were playing a Thursday night Amazon Prime game a few weeks back, Saints-Rams. I was like, oh, they get Amazon Prime because there's a deal with bars. So what's going to happen is you'll go watch these games at bars.
Yeah,
and
which
maybe
is
you'll
good.
see me. And if you see me, come by and say hello. Too many times I get people that tweet me that they saw me, and it's not until I get home that I read it. Don't do that. Let's all enjoy this together. I'm also envisioning, by the way, what happens if the Browns lose and then everyone's still like watching, like just misery. But if they win, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Happiest weekend in Cleveland because they're the first playoff game. You start things off.
I'm going to find out where you're at. I'm going to be sending people nonstop just to be like.
It's not like that. It's like one or two
No, I know
people.
what
But
no, I know what you're saying. But I'm just to
Yeah.
like see what's the threshold where you want to watch the game. You also appreciate the fans. I want people like nonstop going. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. I know it's second and short. The Browns are driving here, but you're the guy from around the NFL and the Bold Ball Breakdown? Oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan.
and then I'm going to say, hey, thanks. All right, let's watch. Now watch this drive.
Dolphins at Chiefs, unbelievable.
All right, Dolphins 23, Chiefs 17. I've gone back and forth on this one. The Chiefs defense is really good, but that offense, I do not trust it at all. And I think that in a matchup of, look, I already feel bad about this, but I sent it in, so I have to stick to it because that's what's going to show up online, and all the teams are going to grab that graphic.
NFL.com notebook.
It is. It's in the notebook. It's been submitted. It's already on the YouTube videos. Every team's going to hold me accountable on their social media accounts. The fans with the least busy lives that have nothing else to do, I've already screen grabbed it and have tweeted at me that I don't believe in the Chiefs, and that's fine. I stake my claim to it. But I am very, very much up in the air on this one because Tua Tagovailoa has struggled significantly against good defenses. We've seen it in the last few weeks, and I don't know if he can overcome the Chiefs' defense, which is the strength of their team. Crazy to think when they have Patrick Mahomes on offense. But their offense is so bad.
Yeah.
They lost a game by throwing 2 pick sixes. Like, this is a team that cannot get out of its own way. And in a playoff scenario, even at home with Tyreek Hill there, I just worry about a situation where they're like, it's 17-16, and Hill gets behind the defense and scores a touchdown, and they win the game.
Or Hill gets an open space, and I mean that's the one guy. You're right. And this is so somebody. I was talking to somebody about this game. They're like, "Well, the Chiefs at home." I'm like, "Well, okay, the weather's supposed to be crazy. I mean, if you believe some people, it's going to be 58 below zero, but it's going to be bad.
Yeah, polar vortex.
About 10 degrees. There's going to be snow. There's going to be wind. So yeah, that doesn't work in the Dolphins' favor. But I hate to always. Well, I don't always agree with you, but I agree with you on this one. I don't trust the Chiefs. I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if they're at home. And you're right about the D. Like, ironically, this is now a team that has to lean into. I can't believe we're saying this. They have to lean into their D as opposed to Patrick Mahomes and the offense. It's just, it's bizarre, but I don't trust them. And I think actually being at home might work against them because I think they get, I think the, you're trying to make a play and guys are just getting frustrated and Tyreek Hill might be doing a little chirping. And I'm with you. I like the Dolphins. I
really wanted to drop a phrasing on you there with lean into their D, but.
Yeah, I saw some of the smoke coming out of your eyes,
like,
and I saw
immature.
Bone. I saw Bone with a very immature smile.
Yeah.
See, what comes with the notebook is also a sense of professionalism and maturity, kids. Really.
And a lack of follicles, which I can attest to.
I would say that.
The next game. You want to do the next game?
Yes, we got 3 on Sunday. So we got 2 on Saturday, Browns and Texans, followed by Dolphins Chiefs. Sunday, a triple header, 1 p.m. How the hell did these guys get in? The Pittsburgh Steelers, the 17th at Buffalo. I mean, now do all the people that want Tomlin fired, is he back in their good graces because they made the playoffs? I don't know, but they're playing at Buffalo. Bills are favored by 10. That's a lot for a playoff game.
My good buddy Sean Barry works at Fox 13 down in Tampa as a diehard Steeler fan, grew up in Pittsburgh. He told me a few weeks ago on the Gridiron podcast, you can find on all your favorite podcast platforms, that he was seriously considering a future without Mike Tomlin, that it would be justified if they fired him. And now they're in the playoffs, and he was out in a Tampa bar on Sunday celebrating as soon as the Jaguars lost and got the Steelers into the playoffs. I told him 2 things. I said, 1, get a bigger shirt, because he was wearing a very small Steelers shirt that looked like it was in the dryer too many times.
You talk about the pot calling the kettle black.
Hey, man, just because I can fill out an XL doesn't mean you need to wear a schmedium to the bar. And secondly, what about that whole fire Mike Tomlin thing? Don't you remember that? Wasn't that on the table a few weeks ago? How are you feeling about that now? So you know what, Steelers? Enjoy your playoff berth. This has nothing to do with Cleveland, by the way. But you ungrateful people, enjoy getting smacked by the Bills. I think it's closer than people had it. I had a coworker who said 38-13. I got 27-21 Bills.
So I had a lady approach me the other day. It does happen.
She said, "Chico,
yeah,
you look fantastic."
She said, "Chico, are there?" It was at the gym.
She's like, "You've been hitting the curls."
She said, "I have the
triceps.
I have the 6th pick in my playoff. It's like a playoff family pool draft, so not exactly the best spot, but all of the normal suspects, the regular suspects, were picked, were chosen, including the Browns. I told her to grab the Cowboys." I'm like, they're talented enough. They're
playing at home where they're unbeatable.
Right. But like you said, Packers,
scary
dangerous.
Scary team. We'll make it very interesting.
I like the Cowboys here. They're the middle game of the Sunday triple header. Packers 7 seed, Cowboys the number 2 seed. Who do you like in that one?
We are going with Cowboys 30, Packers 20. I think the Packers will make it interesting. Cowboys will pull away. At home, momentum will be on their side. Micah Parsons gets a big takeaway or something like that. Dak Prescott throws a crazy touchdown pass. By the way, not to divert too much, but
never.
Dak Prescott should still be in the MVP conversation. He had like 2 bad games all year. If you look at his grades and his efficiency rankings, it's like way above the margin, way above the margin, way below. Way above the margin all the way through, way below, all the way through. I mean, one of the best years, completely ignored because he didn't finish as strong as
Okay, I said to you last week, we'll do you have a little bit of time?
Of course.
They pay you overtime, too, so don't worry about that. I know we said this last week. I said this last week, and I'm with you. Like Christian McCaffrey, I have no problem if he were to get it. But why does it feel like now people are really trying to just figure out ways to not give it to Lamar Jackson? Like, why is that?
Oh, that's interesting because I feel like everybody wants to give it to Lamar Jackson. And I think recency bias powers that. And I'm not an anti-Lamar guy. I think he's had a fantastic back half of the season. But as somebody who has watched his entire season, I think there are a lot of games where he did not factor into it and did not win them games. And if you look at a full season performance, other players had better seasons, in my opinion. It's just that he had a really great finish in some huge games, and that's what's most recent in our brains. So
and
we
I
think
also take into account, too, like when Mark Andrews goes down and they don't skip a beat, like that. That's, I mean, like when you had to, and we talk about this all the time, late games in the season and, you know, with everything riding on it, not like that's when he really showed. It's kind of like the Heisman.
He's been great. I do not disagree with that. But if we are talking about MVP as a full season award, there have been a few other players who have had better full seasons.
I have no problem. I will say this. If you're not going to give it to Lamar Jackson, give it to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
I just think Dak should be in the running, and I think he's going to get forgotten because of that one blow-up game in Buffalo.
By the way, I love the narratives with the NFC playoffs. Like Cowboys, Mike McCarthy faces his old team. The late game
chock full of them.
Yeah, the late game on Sunday, 8 o'clock, Rams and Lions. Matthew Stafford, guess who he's playing quarterback for? The Rams. Guess where he's going to be at? In Detroit.
Where he could never get a playoff win for the Lions, despite being there for a long time.
This one, I don't know, man. This is who. By the way, I like the Cowboys to win over the Packers.
I'm guessing you like the Bills over the Steelers too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, big, real big.
Duh. It's in the notebook.
Duh. Yeah. I mean, it's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. What's the handwriting looking like these days?
Yeah.
It's all right. It's
No
about
Ken Carman.
mine too.
Carmen has. It's almost like calligraphy. It's amazing.
It's ornate.
Yeah.
It makes my heart flutter every time I see it.
How do I respond to that? Rams and Lions. That's how we respond to it. Who do you like? This might be the most difficult game. Dolphins Chiefs is tough too. This might be the most difficult game on the entire slate.
I just want to say with calligraphy, my former step-grandmother, who's my stepdad's mom, my mom has since gotten divorced. She used to write all of our Christmas cards and birthday cards in a calligraphy pen in calligraphy. That was a real treat.
Somebody, I remember somebody trying to influence me to take a calligraphy class.
It's
and I'm
nuts.
like, no, I'm not.
It looks like it's from like the 1800s.
And it's like an art thing, and I hate art. So why would I take? Yeah, I don't.
Chico, not a fan of culture. High
Duh.
culture.
I mean, some culture. I like
Chico Borman. I hate art.
I like Snoop Dogg back in the mid-'90s.
I'm sorry. I've completely made us digress. But
right, man.
Rams Lions. From a city chock full of art, Los Angeles comes to Detroit, the Motor City, a blue-collar town. Who wins this matchup? I have been very much up in the air on this one, much like Dolphins Chiefs. I went with the home team, and by 1 point, 31-30 Lions. I mean, it could go either way. It is a complete toss-up. These are two similar teams. The Lions have more talent. They are more prone to making mistakes. Can you force Jared Goff to turn the ball over? Because if you can't, you're not going to win that game. But it's going to be like Rams Ravens was, Rams Seahawks. It's going to be back and forth the whole game. I do not expect a one-sided affair here.
All right, so I'm looking into those pieces of art where if you look at it long enough,
is it a spaceship?
Yeah, and I can
3D
see.
art.
I see a picture of Puka Nakua. I'm not lying to you, Puka Nakua. I'm going Rams. You said it at the very end. You kind of stole my thunder, but that's okay. I think Jared Goff lays an egg. And I'm actually rooting for him. I think he got a bit of a raw deal in L.A. and whatever, but like when push comes to shove and all the marbles and all the chips are down and this is what I don't know if I trust Jared Goff. I know I trust Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay more. Detroit you're right. They're very talented. I love watching so many guys on that team. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. Love watching them play.
Sam Laporta, who may or may not play.
Yeah, great tight end out of Iowa. Yeah, that's big.
That's big.
I just can't go all in on Jared Goff. I just can't do it.
That's fair. That is justified. That's why Sean McVay moved on from him in favor of Matthew Stafford. It's a very interesting way that the circle is completed, though, with that trade, how it went down. Lions going toward a rebuild with a bridge quarterback. Now they got their quarterback of the future who was the bridge quarterback. And they're the team that's playing at home in the playoffs against the team that they traded Matthew. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how I'm sitting there on Sunday just going, come on, shake out so we get Rams-Lions. Come on. And we did. So thank you, NFL gods. Also, the 3D art, Mr. Pitt.
Yes. Yeah,
What do you eat it with your hands?
That's the that's the candy bar. It's also the Woody Woodpecker.
Ha ha ha.
Mr. Pitt, Elaine, I need you to pick me out some socks. Remember, Jerry wants her to hang out with them. She's like, I can't. I have to pick out Mr. Pitt a pair of socks. Very important job. All right, Eagles-Bucks, final game of the slate. This is, I don't know. It's kind of like Kansas City, ironically, and maybe not ironically, the two teams in the Super Bowl last year. But like Kansas City, for a while we thought, this isn't as bad as we think. No, it's as bad as you think it is or has been. And with the Eagles, same thing. Defensively, they're a mess. Matt Patricia calling a defense it's not his own. You've got injuries. I don't even know if A.J. Brown, we mentioned him, 2 references to A.J. Brown on the show today.
Sounds like he should be okay.
I'll let you go first. It's at Tampa.
I'm very mad that this is the Monday night game. I get why defending NFC champions playing Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. I get that intrigue. It's going to be gross, guys. And I'm looking up the weather right now because I'm not talking about the weather. I'm talking about the football. The football has been gross for both teams for the last few weeks. The Eagles have been the headline. They've had a terrible run. I think they're, 1-5 in their last 6. It's been gross. It's been pretty gross in Tampa, where the Buccaneers had to scratch and claw their way to a very low-scoring win this past weekend and have not been a good operation for 3 or 4 weeks now. I'm concerned about them. Defensively, they've been better. Offense has entered a rut at the worst possible time. Ooh. So which offense is playing worse right now? That's what we find out on Monday Night Football with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Another toss-up because neither team has a ton of momentum right now. I think the Buccaneers winning the South, okay, the division sucked. You almost blew it in Week 17, and then you managed to get the job done in Week 18. The Eagles, meanwhile, lose their grip on the number 1 seed on the NFC East title. They have to go on the road now. Is this the time they finally find it and figure it out? I don't think so, the way everything's trended for the last month and a half. And yet I say the Eagles are the more talented team. Yeah, I have them winning by 1 point, 17-16. It's not going to be pretty. I'm
going Eagles because I'm a big Kylie Kelsey fan.
She's a hero.
Not Taylor Swift, not Brittany.
He's a salt of the earth guy.
Kylie Kelsey is the real get. Yeah, Taylor's, and I love Tay-Tay. Obviously, Tay-Tay,
don't want to upset the Swifties.
Yeah. And I am. You know that, Boom. I like Tay-Tay. But no, Kylie Kelsey. So I have no idea where to go with that, so that's how I'm going to determine it. I'm going Kylie Kelsey and the Eagles.
Did you watch the Amazon Prime doc on?
I did.
Oh, yep. Fantastic.
Yep.
Made me really appreciate, obviously, Jason and Travis, but I did a feature on their relationship and everything in the lead up to the Super Bowl last year, so I was familiar with that. What I was not familiar with was Kylie. Man, talk about a perfect fit for a guy like Jason
when
Kelsey.
She's like ready to deliver and like she's sitting on the couch and they're going through it and they're figuring out, like, it's one of those things where you don't think about
in case you deliver on the plane.
Right. And then the other thing is, like, you're not really, a lot of guys in that situation, they're not looking about money. They just want, hey, get everybody there and we'll worry. Kylie Kelsey's like, well, Jason, we've got, 32 times. She's doing the math. Like, she's got the budget in her head.
She's like, if the Eagles make the Super Bowl, it's going to be
like,
dicey.
We got to factor this in. Jason's like, I don't care. I'm getting ready to play fight. Yeah. You figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, breaking news. Mike Vrabel will not be back with Tennessee. Atlanta. We've heard Atlanta in with Belichick. I'm going to say this right now.
I'm telling you, man, anything's in play.
Yeah. Might not be, I don't want to say popular. I'm probably going to take some heat on it, but I feel like it's okay to say if I'm a Washington fan, if I'm an Atlanta fan, if I'm whoever that needs a coach, should I feel guilty saying I don't want Belichick? And it's not that,
no,
best of all time, but like, I just feel like you're bringing him in. Why? Like, what's the real reason you're bringing him in? Just the name and what he's done, or what you think where he's going to be able to take you?
See, I always think about the worst case scenario first because I'm a person that considers, repercussions and the down the road results.
Yes.
And I think about a scenario in which the Browns are familiar with, in which they hired Mike Holmgren to be the czar of their team, and he did nothing for them. And it was a nightmare by the time he left.
That's not true. He did some great shows in Seattle.
I don't think that Belichick is that guy. I don't think he's going to show up at the office at 10:30 and leave at 2. But I'm concerned that, at this point, it has the game kind of passed him by? Does his approach still work? I don't know. What has happened in New England since Tom Brady left, I don't think that it says, hey, he was nothing without Tom Brady. The guy won a couple Super Bowls before he was even a head coach. That's not the issue at hand here. The issue is he's at a certain age where I just wonder if his system, which has worked in the NFL for so long, look, it's a copycat league. Everybody catches up, and then eventually somebody else innovates and passes you by.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he goes somewhere like Atlanta or like the Chargers or something like that, where if he's the big splash hire and ends up being Vince Lombardi in Washington or Mike Ditka in New Orleans, it's just like guys who are kind of past their time and can't do it. I can think about Jimmy Johnson who am I thinking about? Not Jimmy Johnson. Who's the other coach that went to Miami?
Nick Saban?
No, that was another one. Maybe it was Jimmy Johnson. It's
made
killing
me cry.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought for a second, but okay, here we go. So Belichick. I think in terms of I think the guy can break down film, but here's the thing. The other thing that gets lost in the whole Tom Brady equation was not only was Tom Brady great, I've always said and anybody I've ever heard talk about it, like whether it be Teddy Bruschi or whoever, they all say that Tom Brady acting like he was the 53rd man on the roster was a huge part of, like, Belichick could call him out. Brady was okay. Now maybe towards the end but that's what allowed them, a big part of it. I don't know if you can still do that. Mac Jones, obviously he pushed back. His feelings got hurt. And I'm not saying that like, oh, wow, you can't find that guy, but that was so special and so unique for so many different reasons.
I think that was of an era, too. I don't know if that exists anymore.
Exactly. But yeah, with Belichick, I don't see it. With Harbaugh, I would want him. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've heard we had Miles Simmons was on with me.
Miles, love
last
that guy.
week. Yeah, very, very good. In Northeast Ohio native as well. And asked him about the Chargers gig. And he said, I said, if it comes open, or it is open, if Belichick is available, would you? He's like, no. And I said, what about Harbaugh? And he's like, yeah, Harbaugh's intrigued. He goes, I really think Ben Johnson.
Yep.
You're on board with that too?
Yeah, he's the next guy. Like, he's done a hell of a job as the offensive coordinator of the Lions. I think he's one of the top candidates from the coordinator ranks to rise up and get the gig. Okay. So I don't disagree with that at all. Notebook. Yeah. Ben Johnson, Lions OC, turned Jared Goff into a long-term starter.
But hopefully he doesn't get blamed when Jared Goff throws 4 picks.
Could do the same with Justin Herbert. Don't know about his overall head coaching
chops. All I need
chops.
is Ben Johnson to write it. I don't have – this thing isn't
There's a lot of paper left in that notebook. All you got to do is flip it. Does that pen bleed? Can you write on the backside? That's how you extend a notebook right there. Both sides of the paper.
Yeah, sometimes I don't like to do that. It does bleed because I press hard.
You got that angry – that's a good writing pen. That thing is smooth.
This is the G2, the Pilot G210 bold.
Find that at Staples.
Yeah, you don't want the fine, you want the bold.
Yeah, because this is the bald breakdown.
I mean, put it on the team for God's sake, didn't I? All right, playoff edition of the bold bald breakdown. The Browns, the Texans, Saturday at 4:30. I'll tell you what. Either way, if they fall, we'll wrap it up next week, but I want to be talking about the next opponent. I
don't want to consider that future that doesn't include the Browns having another game to play right now.
I think they will. We both
enjoy it. Either way, enjoy it, Cleveland. Enjoy it. The Browns have earned it. You have earned it, helping them post the best home record in the NFL outside of Dallas. I mean, it's you've earned this over 20 plus years. Enjoy it.
If you see Nick Shook out on Saturday, say hello, ask for an autograph. Even
Oh
feel
my
free.
God.
Even feel free to grab like a jalapeno popper and dip, and just be like,
Yeah.
Chico said you were.
Yeah,
very
I'm a man of the
generous.
people, but don't tweet at me and then not come talk to me.
Okay.
Don't be shy.
Can't wait for that. All right. He is Nick Shook, NFL.com, the NFL Network. Follow him on Twitter at the Nick Shook. And what's that podcast that you promoted earlier?
The Gridiron Podcast. Iron is in brackets. That's the way we separate ourselves, and really because it's the play on the word, because it's about football and Formula One. We'll be recording a new episode tomorrow or Thursday, and we had one up from last week.
Because that's how he rolls. All right. We will break for now. When we come back, a little more news and notes from the NFL. Obviously, the breaking news about Mike Vrabel. And then there was a national championship game last night. Two things can be true. We've said it before. We'll say it again when we come back. Yes, hail to the...
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I wasn't going to say it.
God.
No way I was going to say it.
Thank
Chico
God.
Borman Show. More to come right here on the Big Play Sports Network. I really feel I was outed on the Notebook, Boom. Now, not that, I mean, I don't hide it during the show, and you see me scribbling certain things, but I even here at Big Play, when I'd be getting ready for a show before and preparing, people are like, what are you writing? I'm preparing for the show. You have computers, you have a laptop, and you have an iPhone, yet you write in a notebook.
You know what, Chico? In the back of my mind, I wish I wrote more, because I feel like I've heard of studies in the past where like the act of actually writing can help with in terms of remembering.
Oh, it does.
And
it does for me anyway.
And it's more beneficial than like typing something out. So I do wish that I wrote more, and in that way, I respect your approach to this whole thing.
The other thing is, while I'm writing, like ideas are popping in my head for like things to not just the obvious that what I'm writing, but like another angle to it. So
It's inspiring.
But isn't it crazy how Shook? I mean, he just
It does have old school vibes to it, but like at the same time, I get it.
totally does. All right, love him. That was a fun show. We got the Browns and the Texans coming up Saturday at 4:30. Yeah, I do. I said this. Heck, I said this. What game was it? I don't know if it was the Jets game when they could clinch, and I just said, I'm not. Granted, the Jets are, not a great team, but the nerves aren't there. And I think it's more of like an acceptance. It's not a matter of, oh, hey, if they lose, of course I'm going to be upset. But this season has just been it's been so rewarding for so many different reasons, in part because I don't view this as, gee, if they lose, I want to go jump in Lake Erie. Now, I might want to go jump in Lake Erie for other reasons, which we won't get into, Boom. But
will Hugh Jackson be there?
you know what? If I'm going in there, I am going to call Hugh. It might be a long shot, but I would say, Hugh, any chance you want to go back in Lake Erie? Because I'm heading there right now.
Anything for a little pub, baby.
And he just say, Hugh Jackson's here, baby. I've sat in those chairs, guys. Boom, I've sat in that chair. I know what that's Hugh from Hard Knocks talking to. I wish G-Dub was here. G-Dub was here for that, right? Yeah, he
was.
Yeah, he was there for that little.
We need to get him on the show just ask him about that stuff. By the way, he didn't.
As if like G-Dub didn't have experience as a head coach or experience in the league for so many years, and G-Dub's listening to Hugo. Greg, I sat in your chair. I know what you. Shut up.
By the way, I think you'll appreciate this, Chico. So we filmed Come Get Some with Greg and Blake Williams yesterday. They didn't get a chance to talk about it, but Greg told me off the air. He was like, well, that stuff with Jameis Winston, right? And we mentioned it, and I kind of expressed some empathy towards Jameis for his actions going behind Dennis Allen's back to rush for a touchdown when you're already up 41-17. And Greg was like, I would have cut his ass the moment that happened. I would have packed up his locker and cut his ass.
Let me just say something right now. And I'm not just saying this because he's, part of the big play team and him and Blake do a great job. But like when he first came on board, I didn't know how he was going to be or what. In the limited time that I've had with him, certain occasions, I'm telling you right now, he is one of the top 3 storytellers I've ever met in my entire life. Like, you want a story, and I'm not going to go into you want a story about Roger Goodell? He's got 1 or 2 or 5. You want to? It's amazing. It's amazing, and it's entertaining as all get out. So yeah, I could totally see him saying that. I'd cut his ass right there.
And I won't mention which player it was, but he said he's done that once before with another player when he was defensive coordinator with the Redskins. And it was a pretty prominent player. He packed up his stuff. He left it in a box on Dan Snyder's desk in the owner's office. So yeah, I don't think he was lying, Chico.
There is only one, and will always be only one, G-Dub. Come get some, baby. All right. So Browns Texans, much more on that coming up this week as we continue. I like them. Shook likes them. I think there's reason to not only feel positive about this game, and it's not to say it's going to be easy because it won't, because I think C.J. Stroud's still going to put up some numbers, but I think ultimately, I think more than anything, it's about, I think the Texans defense can be had, and they were had on Christmas Eve. C.J. Stroud doesn't play on the defensive side of the ball, so we talk about, well, that game didn't mean anything. No, I mean, they were hitting big plays, and that's what what's the one thing about Joe Flacco, other than the obvious and the incredible story, is that guy's all about big plays. They're all about big plays. So, and we're all about big plays. It's in our name, Bohm. Look. Big play. I feel like I should be on that show with So Dave got La Tech against Wyoming tonight in hoops. They're laying 6.5. Who you got?
I by the way, I don't know if you saw, Chico, but I did catch a couple of big hats. Big hats in the national championship game, just in the crowd last night.
Yeah, they are. Well, and we're always ahead of the curve. I actually I do like it. I think it's funny as hell. Watching.
It is funny as hell.
All right. Speaking of the national championship, Michigan Wolverines. Look, I give them all the credit. I don't. I mean, nobody. I don't think anybody in their right mind, when you see that Michigan won the national championship 34-13, they finished 15-0. Nobody in their right mind can say, "Oh, you know what? They didn't deserve it. They weren't the best team." Now, just because you say that doesn't mean, oh, well, they're not guilty of what they've been accused of, because I think they're every bit guilty of it. Do I think it helped them to maybe not necessarily in that game, but during the course I don't know what's going to happen with vacated wins, and I don't want that to happen. I mean, honestly, I don't want that to happen. Somebody out there is going, "Oh, you're full of it. You're a Buckeye." I don't like that stuff. But seriously, Michigan fans are acting like, it never happened, and, well, you guys are tainting our national championship. Somebody called into a national show today. Yeah, you guys are bringing that up. You don't have to bring that up. You just want to taint. No, we want to. They did. Like, nobody put a gun to their head and said, go and do this, okay? And then, I think the other thing that really bothers people about Michigan and this whole scandal, and I'm going to get to the game and their impressive performance in a moment, is that, first of all, the stories change every other day. And then, you got, J.J. McCarthy, basically, what was that he said? That was nuts. Oh, yeah, well, we had to get on board with Ohio State. Okay, so you didn't do it or you did do it. Harbaugh last night, well, we won, but we're innocent. The whole thing is just, it's stupid and it's serious all at the same time. Having said that, Michigan kicked the living crap out of Washington up front like they did pretty much everybody they faced this year. And hats off to Jim Harbaugh and that team for that. Now, do I think that the unintended or intended consequences, however you want to look at it, were that this team became very galvanized because of it? Yes. And that's to their credit too. You can say, well, they shouldn't bet. Well, everybody was saying it does speak to a culture that they have where they do play for each other. They do. So, there's a lot of good. And I'm saying that. Yes, I'm saying that. EK is going to join me tomorrow. Big Michigan alum and fan and all that. And I'm saying it right now. Michigan, there's a lot of great things about that team and about that program right now. And it wasn't that long ago that you couldn't say that. But the one thing we always say about Jim Harbaugh, wherever he goes, he's going to wear out his welcome at some point, but he's going to win, and he's going to win his way. 3 NFC championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance, now a national championship at Michigan. This guy, he is one of the best coaches in the game. College, pro, doesn't matter. When a team takes on the coach's identity, sometimes for good or bad, for good and bad, actually, but his identity is all about, we're going to be physical. And, as much as people joke about it, he learned that from Bo, and that was Bo with the 2 tight ends, and that's Jim Harbaugh. And damn it, he did it at Stanford. Stanford was anything but. Pac-12, Stanford, they're not going to be rough and tough and physical. Jim Harbaugh said, you don't think? Give me a couple years. That's exactly what he did. So I want to be clear that they are, without a doubt, the best team in the country. And good for them. But it's okay. Both things can be true. It is. It is the steroid scandal all over again. Do I think Barry Bonds did steroids? Yes. Do I think Barry Bonds is a Hall of Fame player? Yes. Do I think Barry Bonds was a Hall of Fame player with or without steroids? Yes. Why did he do it then? Why did he do it? Well, he did it because, one, it would extend his career a little bit. It also was going to make him a ton of bank because it was, chicks dig the long ball, and Barry Bonds, people are coming out for this. We're going to give you all the money you want. He should. He's Barry Bonds, right? So, but there are consequences to that. That's the thing. You can't do that and then just expect, well, I'm great. I've always been great. this didn't do anything. Well, if it didn't do anything, you wouldn't have done it. Harbaugh, in Michigan, if it didn't help you guys, you wouldn't have done it. You wouldn't have allowed Connor Stallions to do this whole little, whatever this was, circus clown show that he was putting together for years and years. You wouldn't have allowed it. But you did. And why did you? Well, because it helped you. To some degree, it had to help you. Now, again, how far, how much, I don't know. We may never know. But there's a reason the rule's in place. And again, there is a reason that you guys allowed this to go on. You could have said, look, we appreciate the fact that you love Michigan football. Here's a jersey, here's a winged helmet. Harbaugh will sign both for you. Now get the hell off our, no, we don't. They didn't do that. I feel like Josh Mankiewicz. You could have, most people would have told a rogue guy like Connor Stallions trying to steal signals to get the hell off their sideline, but you didn't do that, did you? Why didn't you do that? Because he helped in some, you can't deny that, Michigan fan. Even though, and it was kind of sad and funny all at the same time, listening to a couple national shows this morning where Dan from Ann Arbor, Dan from Ann Arbor, he's like, you guys, nothing has been proven. He's like, you can't connect the dots that he did that, and that he did that and he gave the information to Michigan, and that Michigan then used that information. Well, I mean, how do you expect me to respond to that? How do you expect anybody to respond to that?
Dan from Ann Arbor is in denial, Chico.
Yeah, and look, you don't like the fact that on the day that you won the national championship, people are talking about that, but it goes with the territory. And like I said, are they the best team? There is no doubt in my mind. I mean, they are physical as hell. You saw them run the ball against Washington. We heard Yogi Roth yesterday from the Pac-12 Network, and hey, we don't play, flag out west. We play tackle too, but there's a different form of tackle. There's a different form of physicality that I think is played with some schools, including in large part the Big Ten, but especially at Michigan. And they showed it. Michael Penix, it's not that Texas, if you go back and look at the Texas-Washington game, it wasn't that Byron Murphy wasn't winning off he was actually getting back there. Now, Penix would be able to sidestep but again, that was Byron Murphy coming off the edge. What did Michigan do last night? Right up the middle. I don't care how many sacks they got or didn't get. He was pressured. He started to feel that pressure. And then the flip side was, man, look at them open up holes. Look at that. Donovan Edwards is still running, and Blake Corum. They beat you up. They beat the crap out of you like they beat up a lot of teams, including Ohio State. So hats off to them. They deserve the national championship. 5 years from now, will they still have it? I don't know. Michigan fans that don't want to even address that or even, even say that it exists, well, you're living in a dream world. I mean, maybe the NCAA, it took them with Kansas, 6 years, 5-6 years to get around to it. 5-6 years from now, I don't even know what our planet's going to look like. I don't know. What is college football going to be played by robots in 5? I don't know. That's a long time. And the way this game is changing and continues to change year after year, God only knows what's going to happen. But, yeah, two things can be true. They win, they deserve to win, and, yes, they cheated along the way. And that's it. That's that. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll finish up with a little fair or foul. Chico Borman Show. More to come right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. Chico Borman Show as we wind it down on this Tuesday. Had a great bold ball breakdown with my buddy Nick Shook, and we were just talking about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. Will he stay? Will he go? He's going to have, I'm sure, plenty of suitors for the NFL. Speaking of which, Mike Vrabel is available because the Tennessee Titans and Mike Vrabel decided to part ways. Very interesting. So this carousel is going to go round and round. But before we get to fair or foul, former Browns president of operations Joe Banner tweeted this out a little less than an hour ago. He said, quote, "Not many remember that in 2014 with the Browns, we agreed to a trade with the 49ers to acquire Jim Harbaugh. Unfortunately, from our perspective, Jim blocked the trade, and look what has happened to both sides since then. Changed the next decade for both sides." Yeah, I mean, but although now it's.
Did we know that was the reason that it didn't come to fruition, was Harbaugh blocking it? I mean, it's been a while since I remember that report, but that was like that at the time. That was crazy news that it didn't happen after there was so much like smoke to that fire.
I think it was because I think people, because the obviously the big thing then became, well, why wouldn't he want to, and I think it started to come out like, oh well, it's kind of a. As much as like he didn't like Jed York, and I think this is ironic, as much as he didn't like Jed York, the 49ers owner, and of course they ended up, parting ways eventually because that's what happened with Harbaugh. Jed York stayed out of the way. Like Jed York, and that's, it just became like, okay, Jed York said, you're pissing off too many people, so now I got to step in. But Jed York, basically, he was out of it. He was out of it. So anyway. Crazy. All right, it is time for a Tuesday edition, post-college football season edition of Fair or Foul.
Yeah, Jim Harbaugh, true Michigan man, Chico. Didn't want to go to Ohio under any circumstances.
You'll have to push my car. If I'm not getting gas in the state of Ohio. Damn it!
All right. Well, speaking of head coaches, Chico, I want to start right with Mike Vrabel. I don't want to say I'm shocked by it because obviously they didn't have the best season. I don't put a lot of that on Vrabel. But it wasn't totally expected in my opinion. With that said, fair or foul, Mike Vrabel immediately becomes the top head coach candidate in the head coaching candidate pool.
It's a good question. For right now, yes. But again, right now, we don't what is Jim Harbaugh going to do? What is Bill Belichick going to do? Now, would I take Belichick over Mike Vrabel? No. Harbaugh, believe it or not, he's going to change. Now, Vrabel's going to change culture too. I think, honestly, I am surprised, but I'm not surprised. I keep going back to that damn draft scenario with A.J. Brown, and when they traded it, you could just see him fuming. And he's a guy that can run hot. I mean, he doesn't, even try to hide that fact. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. And when they traded A.J. Brown, he just walked right out of the room. He didn't even want to hear the details, nothing. And I think that was the beginning of the end. And then, you don't have success. And I just think he felt, and I think Shook kind of nailed it. He feels like the Tennessee Titans are a sinking ship, and they might be.
All right, Chico. Well, you know that I like to see the glass half full in most occasions, and obviously there's not a lot to feel optimistic about when the Wolverines win the national championship, right? I'm pretty disgusted by it. I was not happy to see it, to say the least. With that said, fair or foul, this national championship run for the Wolverines is beneficial to the rivalry.
Oh, fair, without question. I've said that, since with the last couple of years, and I know some Ohio State fans don't like to hear that, but it's like any rivalry. I said it with the Browns, the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens, the Browns, well, recently the Bengals too, but for years and years, we tried to act because we wanted to believe it ourselves, that there was a true rivalry between the Browns and the Ravens and the Browns and the Steelers. We hated them. That was true. But they're not really paying much attention. All they're paying attention to for years and years was just, finding jokes to make fun of you, and you couldn't say anything. Now all of a sudden, yeah, the rivalry's back. Same thing with Michigan. Now, what's interesting is, does this rivalry stay as heated if Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL? It still will. I mean, it's always going to be Ohio State, Michigan. But Harbaugh, I said it before that game, before that November 25th game, it was Woody and Bo. I mean, it was vintage Woody and Bo as far as how both sides felt about each other. And I don't know if you're ever going to replicate that if Harbaugh goes. Doesn't mean the rivalry still won't be there, but it won't be as intense.
All right, last one I got for you in regards to that scumbucket of a program up north. So J.J. McCarthy, at one point this season, Chico, they were experts talking about how he was going to be the first quarterback off the board in the NFL draft and a bona fide first rounder. Ever since that Penn State game, it feels like not only have they been hesitant to throw, and look, against Ohio State, J.J. McCarthy made some big boy throws, elite caliber
when he
throws.
had to make a big play, period, throw or run, he usually did.
But as far as arm talent, he did not make those throws last night. And I think that there have been times where he's looked very inconsistent in terms of his passing ability.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, at one point in the season, I thought J.J. McCarthy was as good as gone entering the NFL draft.
I thought he made a big throw on the
You know what? He had a couple of good throws that were dropped as well, so it won't be reflected on the...
He had one, though, that who was the... I don't know if it was
that tight end.
Yeah, that
was an impressive catch, too, by him. It was way over his head, and he went up and got it like as high as he possibly could.
You're not thinking of the same.
Okay.
Thinking of the same play. That's all right.
Fair or foul, J.J. McCarthy is returning next season.
Ooh. I'm going to say fair on this, but again, I hate to keep. I think Harbaugh has a lot to do with it. If Harbaugh goes, and that's not to say I know he loves his teammates and all that, but him and Harbaugh have a special relationship. Weird, because they're both weird, which is good, but it's special. I think J.J. McCarthy, I just don't think, for instance, somebody said after last night's game, because Michael Penix struggled, that they would take McCarthy over Penix. No way. Now, Penix, I think his stock obviously dropped because it was like, wow, pressure up the middle, and he struggled. But I've just never... I think McCarthy's a gamer. But there's a lot. Ohio State quarterbacks, that's why to this day I still say J.T. Barrett is one of my favorite quarterbacks. But people a lot of times only, what did he do at the NFL level? Who cares what he did? I'm only basing it on what he did in college. That's not the question. Wasn't the best Ohio State quarterback both at Ohio State and in the NFL? So he's a gamer. I'm going to say he does return. I don't think he's a first rounder. I know some people think he is. I don't think a team. I don't think.
No chance. After how he ended the season, there's no chance he's a first rounder.
There are a couple, believe it or not, there are a couple mock drafts. Yeah,
out of their minds, Chico.
I think
out of their minds.
One had them as like a late, him like a 27, 28 type pick.
I'm sorry, but that dude is off his rocker.
Well, you got to say it at least with a clear throat, Boom.
That dude is off his freaking rocker.
Careful what you wish for, Chico.
Yeah, I digress. Okay, last one I want to ask you today on this edition of Fair or Foul. I know we're up against it. So obviously, Amari Cooper set the Browns franchise record for receiving yards against the Texans the last time they faced off. So you have to imagine that he is going to be a key for that Texans secondary to factor in here in Saturday's matchup in round one of the playoffs. With that in mind, Chico, fair or foul, Amari Cooper's getting over 100 yards on Saturday.
I'm going to go fair. Now, Shook and I kind of touched on this a little bit in the first hour that, the Texans, he's not taking anybody by surprise. I think we all know that. But he is Amari Cooper, and that's what great wide receivers do. They know that they're getting the ball. Everybody in the stadium knows he's getting the ball, but he still gets the football. Now, some of that is contingent on the guy throwing it, but I think he and Flacco just have a great, great chemistry together. So I'm not saying he goes off and has, but 100 yards, yeah, because I think he's going to hit at least one big play, maybe two, but at least one. So, one catch could get him 50, 60 yards. I think there's one of those plays for Amari Cooper and Joe Flacco on Saturday. So, yeah, I would go over 100.
Yeah, and realistically, there's only so much that the Houston defense can do because on so many occasions, and Amari told Joe Flacco this himself, I'm bigger than these guys. Just put it up there. I'll go get it. And Amari could be under the best coverage possible, but if you give him an opportunity and put it within his catch radius, he could very well, more than likely, come out with some big plays.
Yeah, because we were talking about this with Pluto yesterday, because he doesn't, he's not one to really talk about himself a whole lot. You kind of forget, he is 6'2", about 210, 215 pounds. He's one of my favorite players, not just Browns, one of my favorite players, period. I love the fact that he's on this team. I think he has a huge game. I'm going to say about 100.5 on Saturday and a TD. I think he's going to have a big game.
Fingers crossed, and that is fair or foul.
That is fair or foul. That is the Chico Borman Show here on this Tuesday edition. We had the Bold Ball Breakdown in Hour 1 with Nick Shook. You can check that out wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, doesn't matter. And we will be back with you again tomorrow, same time, same place, noon until 2 o'clock in the 1 o'clock hour. I'm sure. I just hope he doesn't come with a chest painted with a big M on it. Eric Casilius, CBS Sports HQ, will drop by at 1 o'clock. Until then, for Michael Bohm, all of us here at Big Play, I'm Mike Chico Borman. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody. See ya.